Hey, Michelle is here on April 10th, 2026 on a Friday. And I'm getting ready to go out because I got some running around to do. I got some, things to do. How about that? But I want to come on through because sometimes you have to keep repeating things. And I notice a lot of people are picking up on stuff. And I'm so grateful. The energy of your thoughts matter. Okay, it matters. And you cannot avoid cause and effect. Okay, you cannot avoid reaping what you have sown. And so a lot of people are getting desperate about that because that is being proven today. Whereas I told you some time ago, there was a collective declaration among a few members of our society. There was a collective declaration, and in other words, the butterfly effect, meaning my actions and behaviors affect your behaviors and actions. And you cannot fool your consciousness and believe you are highly and more advanced in intelligence than anybody else. First of all, that's a bunch of bullshit, and it ought to be clear and effective right now that is not true based on what we're going through. Okay, what is happening now are consequences. Okay, but back in the 1700s, the so-called great minds of that time, so-called founding fathers, were made aware, were given warnings about certain things. If certain things were not in place, these type of reactions and consequences and effects that we have particularly now will reveal themselves. In other words, they will come to pass, or they will, it will happen. So what am I saying? I've said this on many of my videos about cause and effect. And the energy of cause and effect, and it's getting dismissed. It's been dismissed since the inception. We were patting Einstein on the back about something he said, in his formulas, but they turn out to be just theories and opinions. Nobody necessarily took that all in to know what that meant. Everybody was just so excited for some reason that this equation was revealed to them. But then that's it. It's like we're holding a bag of gold, and then we're just sitting it over in the corner, believing that that we're somehow enriched by all of that. We did not use that formula to solve anything. That formula of Einstein was just theories and opinion, and that was the end of it. It wasn't used to solve problems, resolve stuff, blah, 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 blah. Okay. A lot of people now, and it's based on, even though you say to yourself, I'm not evolving, you are. Okay, that's why I say you can't fool your consciousness, because you are evolving, regardless of whether you know you're evolving or not. But what a lot of people have done is, instead of being focused on evolving their consciousness, they've been focused on, believing that they are so highly intelligent, so perfect, a perfect specimen of a human being. It's delusional. Okay, it's delusional. And not to mention, because we are all a form of energy, whether you're a rock, a mountain, a cat, a dog, a human, a flower, we're all a form of energy. And our behaviors and actions affect the behaviors and actions of every other species, creature, or human. So a lot of people are realizing what I've been saying, and others, but what I have on videos to prove is a lot of people are causing their own replacements because of our entropy of overpopulation. In other words, they're replacing themselves. They're wiping themselves out. Remember the Neanderthals and the Peking man? Yeah, there's reminiscent. There's a residue of them. That particular the Neanderthals. There's residue of Neanderthals still around, but the vast majority of them have been what, have gone extinct and mutated into something else. Okay, we're currently in this at this particular time because our entropy of overpopulation. That mutation is happening quicker. The turnaround is quicker. That's why we have underdeveloped consciousness of people who are confused about who they are, what they are, why they are, which starts in their consciousness, starts in their mind, starts in their brain, starts in their thoughts. But it's all energy. Okay, I told you about the electromagnetic field, which is energy. The sun is energy. The moon, the mountains, the ocean is energy. Nuclear weapons, energy. Well, it didn't start out as weapons, but that's what we do. That's what our society does. So a lot of people are recognizing that because it's logical. All you have to do is relax. Number one, okay, ground yourself. Attempt to just suspend who you think you are, what you think you are, why. Who cares if you have a doctorate, and who cares if you have a GED? Suspend all of that. Suspend the fact that you are a biological woman or a biological man. Suspend it. Suspend that you are a Black American or African, Chinese, Japanese. Suspend it. European, suspend it. And just consider what can happen if there's gluttony, overindulgence, over manufacturing. At some point, what's going to happen? Just think about it. If you are just constantly churning out, whether it's human beings or manufacturing, materialism, what's going to happen? At some point, there's going to be a mutation because of the entropy of it all. So a lot of people are recognizing that there's a certain element or group of people that are pushing themselves out because they're the ones that are talking about increase the population of people, have more babies. Okay. And then we have this interference because naturally that's not happening. A lot of women just they just are having issues with conception naturally. So they introduce artificial insemination. That's where the major errors actually sealed our fate. Fertility issues with men, fertility issues with women, having these C-sections instead of natural birth. The interference has caused a mutation on this planet that's going to be unrecognizable, I would say, in 50 years, 100 years, most definitely. And our descendants and children at that time are going to look back on our history we could say it started in the 1700s, where these so-called founding fathers and founding men disregarded warnings that were given to them. They had help from advanced human beings. Nobody wants to hear that. Okay, don't listen to that. Because a kindergartner cannot develop properly without the help of an adolescent, an adult. It's just that's how you learn. Self-education. Our parents can only do so much. But a lot of people are recognizing the correlation between ancestry, lineage, where, your ancestry, your lineage has a parallel impulse of energy. Even though you're a fresh and clean, brand new person, each time you die, your energy passes on to another lineage. It's like I told you, it's like being in a four-lay relay. Being in a relay race, and there's 4 people there. Okay, there's 4 people there. They're all individually different people, but they have the same like-mindedness of running a race. Okay, one starts it and then passes the baton on to the next person, who is not the one. The number 1 is not the same as number 2. Number 2 is not the same as number 3. Number 3 is not the same as number 4, but they have a lineage. They have a parallel existence. Does that make sense? It ought to. I mean, it does. It makes sense. And we have so many examples and so many things in our environment, in our lives, that illustrates that to us, especially in nature. Go out in nature. But since some of us are just refusing to think for ourselves, we keep running to the artificial intelligence to answer questions that are logical to us and that we ought to have understood hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago, centuries ago. Okay, so let me recap before I stop this. Our existence now has a correlation to our past lives. We could say our past ancestry. We could say our past lineage. It doesn't matter. Let's not be so caught up on that. If you recognize that we're all energy, okay, a race of 4 people, a four relay race, okay. Number 1, once number 1 runs the path of wherever they're headed, just like life. I'm number 1 in this lifetime. If you wanted to start here, start with yourself. Once I pass on and die, the energy of what I was able to develop in my consciousness, how I was able to self-educate myself, develop myself, is passed on to the next personality. And they take what I've done, what I've stored within me, and they run, and they start the race over from their vantage point, because they're not going to remember who number 1 was, and it's irrelevant. They're not going to be looking back wondering who I was. They're going to be looking forward to make sure they can get to number 3, and then number 3, number 4. Okay, passing that baton. So just think about this clearly and effectively. Do not allow it to overwhelm you. It's not an overwhelming and then everything will start making sense to you. You'll wonder why we're in these consequences now with this particular regime we have in America. That's not by accident, honey. It's not by chance. It's a consequence of behaviors and actions. It's an effect, cause and effect. It's all energy. Okay, it's just revealing itself in the behaviors and actions of human beings, because we ought to know better. We've been given many, many, many warnings about what is happening now. It ought to not be a surprise. But a lot of people are surprised. It's delusional. Okay, and it's illusionary. Okay, it's just plain stupidity. Believing that you can believing you can escape cause and effect. It's energy, all right? So I'm going to go ahead and stop this right now. Again, I got some errands to run, places to go. My life still goes on. My life still matters. I still have accountabilities and responsibilities, regardless of what's going on. I still have to evolve. And so do you. Peace and love all over the stars and moon and mountains. It's about universal love. Understand what that means and share it.